ॐ वाङ् मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्मयेधि वेदस्य आणीस्थः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासि अनेनाधीतेनाहोरात्रानुसन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति 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 हरिः ॐ। Om. May my speech be accorded with the mind. May my mind be accorded with the speech. O self-effulgent one Brahman, reveal thyself to me. May you both, the speech and the mind, be the carriers of the highest truth to me. May not all that I have heard depart from me. May I be able to join day and night through this study. I shall utter what is verbally true. I shall utter what is mentally true. May that Brahman protect me. May that Brahman protect the teacher. May that protect me. May that protect the teacher. Om. Peace, peace. Peace be unto you all. Good morning. This morning I am going to talk on a philosophical matter. It is not directly connected with our spiritual life, but it will help us to understand the Vedantic perspective, especially the Upanishadic perspective of outlook. I am talking about basically the subjective and objective aspect of human perspective. Decades, I shall compare the Western philosophers and Indian philosophers. On this respect, I shall explain how many views are there on the subjective and objective perspective, and I shall compare the similarities and dissimilarities between the Eastern and Western philosophers, and then I shall conclude how these polarities, this difference, completely opposite views of subjective and objective perspective can be integrated, can be synthesized in Upanishad. That is the subject matter of my talk this morning. Descartes, is considered as the father of modern philosophy because of his innovation of metaphysical methodology. Metaphysical means which is not physical, beyond physical. Which is not physical, that is something other, but it is beyond physical. That is called metaphysical. So what is beyond physical? Beyond physical is, on the other hand, it is called transcendental. Beyond physical is transcendental. So, what is physical? Physical means which we see in this world. In other words, how can we see, how can we connect ourselves with this world? Through senses, exactly. Through senses. So only through senses we can connect with the world. So that means metaphysical means beyond senses. Transcendental means beyond senses. That is, he establishes a methodology of metaphysics. On the other hand, Immanuel Kant, he also an outstanding philosopher, a philosopher in difference, and he actually establishes the epistemological method in Western philosophy. So these are the two father, figure in Western philosophy. Why I have taken the name of Descartes and Kant, it is because they are all objective philosophers. But at the same time, they have tried to connect objective philosophy towards the subject. Let me explain how they did. Descartes especially, he said that the diversity of our opinion is not because some are more reasonable than the others, but only because we conduct our thought by different ways and do not all consider the same thing. So when we have the difference of opinion, it is not because the subject matter is different, because our thought pattern is different. We are thinking in different ways. That is the thing. So in the case, and he also continued, that of all different ways of approach, the most important are objective and subjective method. So what are the objective methods? What is the objective method? Object means which is not subjective. Subjective means I. That is the objective method. So what is the perception? What is the perception of objective things? Everything is objective. Even our body is objective. Why? Because we can see our body. Body is also objective. Thoughts, according to Indian philosophy, thoughts are also objective because we are different. We can conceptualize our thought. But the subjective thing, we cannot conceptualize. We cannot feel, only we have awareness of that. So what is subjective then, according to Indian philosophy? Only the Atman. In my other talks, I referred that trichotomy and dichotomy. This is the basic difference between the Eastern and Western thoughts. The body and mind, and body, mind, and the third entity, which is called Atman. These are the basic difference between the Western philosophy, thoughts, and the Eastern philosophy and thoughts. So, this is the objective and subjective difference. And he said that those who are following the metaphysical system, but at the same time they are calling it metaphysical system. So metaphysics means beyond our senses. So it is a metaphysical system, but this kind of metaphysical system actually leads to the atheism and ultimately materialism. Let me see. The basic philosophy of Descartes is we thought everything outside what the objective thing we are seeing because of our thought. We think that we see. That is his basic conclusion. So what we think that we see, because everything is the product of our thoughts. That is Descartes said. This Descartes, in this line, there are Descartes, Berkeley, Hume. These are the philosophers in this line. So according to them, these are called the Cartesian philosophers. So they are rationalist, logically thinking. They give emphasis on thinking. So these are the Cartesians, and they ultimately come into the objective things. They emphasize on the objective things. These are the Western stand of objective philosophers. They are called Cartesian philosophers. Let us see who are the Cartesian philosophers in Indian philosophy. The Vaisheshikas. You know, there are 6 philosophical schools in Indian system, and Vaisheshika is one of them. So Vaisheshikas are exactly this kind of philosophers, and they make use for the most part of the objective approach, which is with their analytical skill and classifying various phenomenal universal. They call it categories. Actually, it is said that the molecule, it is their concept, the atom, it is their concept. They first developed this kind of concept of atom and molecule, Vaisheshikas, because they categorize the objective world in different categories. You know, in Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, sometimes if you go through, you say 24 categories. So this is the Indian philosophical system. They started with 91 categories, just as you know, the Western, the modern science, it has different elements. Now, I think it was 108, now it will be probably 112 or 114 elements are there. And these elements are the, according to Vaisheshikas, these kind of things are the categories, different categories. They grouped in different categories. So it was 91 categories. Then ultimately they came down to 64 categories. Then they came down to 51. Then they came down to 24 categories. And then it came down to 21 categories, and then 2 categories. You see, in Patanjali Yoga Sutra or in Sankhya philosophy, there is only Prakriti and Purusha, and ultimately in Vedanta it came to 1 category. Everything is Brahman. So in this way, you see, just the modern science. The modern scientists are bringing down all the categories. See, 114 or 120 elements are there, you know. They are trying to bring down into 1 category, which is they try to figure out the God particle. By analyzing which we can analyze the whole universe. They are trying to find that. Exactly in the same way, the Indian philosophers, they tried to bring down the different categories into 1 category, which is called Brahman. And they said that if we can understand Brahman, we can understand everything. Just like the God particle. They are trying to bring down everything, all the forces, 4 forces. They are trying to integrate all the forces, all the elements in this universe into 1. Now everywhere there is 1 password, you know. Everybody is trying to find the 1 password, and you can log into everything else. In your cloud, in your everything. So 1 cloud. Everything is there. People, this is easier, you know, everything is coming down into 1. So that is what happened. So these are the Vaisheshikas. These are actually the objective philosophers. They thought and they researched on the objective world. That is the idea. But the conclusion is, just like a billiard ball, universe will satisfy no true seekers of truth. Those who are the seekers of truth, they cannot be satisfied by the objective world. As for example, the scientist, modern scientist, they are trying to find the clue, the bottom line of everything, and these are multiple. As these are multiple, it is very difficult to find everything. Unless we find one and we solved one and we come to know everything. So that is why this come to little bit dissatisfaction. Of late, this objective method has invaded even the realm of psychology. The behaviorist materialize. They materialize the mind and makes it shadow in the flesh. So mind, according to them, the behaviorist, the mind is the shadow of the body. That is the conclusion. They came and they try to integrate physics and psychology. You can find, if you go through the Google, you can find there are a lot of articles. They are trying to integrate the physics and psychology. So this is the objective. At the most, they are trying to do that. So this is this objective point of view. Then take the subjective method of consideration. And we can say that subjective method look, they call the empiricist, the opposite of rationalist, empiricist. The Hume, Spinoza, they are this line of philosophers. The father is Locke. So this psychological method is that they call it subjective philosophy. But the subjective philosophy is based on thoughts only. They derive everything from the thoughts. Descartes also said, what we are thinking, that is projecting in the outside. So the outside world is dependent on our thought. But these people also, this empiricist, they are try to think about the thoughts, and they are based on the sensual validation. So everything, unless it is sensual validation is there. Validation means sensual validation. So sensual validation means through five senses. Everything should be verified through five senses. So all our verification processes are through five senses. We cannot go beyond that. There is no other way to go beyond the verification except five senses. So these people also, they tried to conclude the subjective thing, but on the basis of objective verification. But ultimately, they will also become agnostic, and they based on the objective things. This is Locke, Hume, then Spinoza, etc., this line. But in Indian philosophy, this subjective line was adopted by Lord Buddha. See, Lord Buddha's main objective was the spiritual, solving the external world by the support of spiritual enlightenment. What was Buddha's problem? Buddha's problem was three sides. The old man, the diseased person, and the death one. So these are the three sides of Lord Buddha. And he wanted to solve this problem. He found these are the great problems. Why people become old. It's a problem of old. Then the problem of diseased. Those who have ailment, those who are not well, those who have some disease in their body or this kind of thing. So that is another problem. The third problem is death. So people are very extremely sorry for that, because this is unsolved problem. And Buddha left home and hearth to solve these problems on the basis of subjective or metaphysical way. So he could understand that. That is the very important thing in Buddhism. So Buddha turned the whole way. Had Buddha known that this can be solved by the worldly things, objective things, then he was a king, He could have established thousands of hospitals, thousands of food stalls for the poor people. But he did not do that. He turned to the subjective way. But what was the result? The result was he was agnostics. He did not say that whether the God is there or not. He became agnostics. And ultimately, he took the position of the objective philosophers, as he said, this world is nothing but suffering. So world is nothing but suffering. And the last point, he did not explain what was the experience he had. It was not clearly known what was the experience that Buddha had, and how could he solve the problem of these three. Physically, no. We can see still old age is there, disease is there, and death is there. So what was the thing that Buddha solved? It was not explained improperly by Buddha. So see, ultimately, Buddha ended up with the objective kind of thing. He said there is suffering. And here is the challenge of Vedanta. If you compare Buddhism with Vedanta, the main problem of Vedanta is that why often people ask this question, that why Buddhism is so popular and Vedanta is not. One of the great challenges is this: people can understand suffering. They experience it because it is worldly. Whereas what Vedanta is saying Ananda, happiness. And at the same breath, Vedanta is saying it is not happiness what you are having by eating a chocolate. It is not this kind of happiness. So what kind of happiness? It's a kind of transcendental happiness. People do not understand that. We do not have any idea about the transcendental happiness. So this is the great challenge of Vedanta, that people has to go beyond to get the experience through Vedanta. And it is very difficult. Logically, you cannot prove that. Subjective thing, you cannot prove subjective thing. by logical method. I can easily make you understand that what is suffering. Every moment we have the suffering in this world. So, the point here is that this subjective people also, I would say so-called subjective philosophy, starting from Locke and Hume, etc., and in Eastern world like Buddha, it ultimately ended up with the objective thing. There are subjective components, but still Buddha is silent in the subjective aspect. But as it has the objective aspect also, so people hold that. How many people here are expert in Vipassana technique? Years after years, people are attending, spending a lot of money to Vipassana meditation camp because it is transcendental. That's why it is difficult. However, there is another method which is subjective objective. And this subjective objective, it is not exist in Western philosophy, but it exists in Eastern philosophy. In Sankhya, these are the Sankhya philosophy. And Patanjali Yoga Sutra is based on Sankhya philosophy. So what Sankhya philosophy? Sankhya philosophy is called Prakriti Ashraya. Means there are, Prakriti means the natural world, the objective thing. So it is based on objective things, not the subjective. So based on objective things, they try to come the objective things. What is the method? The method is eliminate the objective things and there will be only subjective things. That is the method they adopted. And this is subjective means the Purusha. The Purusha is the subjective. The consciousness is the subjective. But even in this method, you see, there are a number of Purushas. There is multiplicity. According to Patanjali Yoga Sutra or according to Sankhya philosophy, there are multiple Purushas. We all are individual Purushas. So consciousness are many according to Sankhya philosophy. So they could not resolve the matter into one. There are plurality of spirits. And even two things, they cannot resolve the Purusha and Prakriti. They did not say that Prakriti is coming out from Purusha. There are two entities. So duality. So duality means, yes, the objective things. My topic is synthesis. Synthesis in Upanishad. So we find that neither the objective philosophers nor the subjective philosophers, they could synthesize Western, both Western and Eastern, they could synthesize the objective aspect and subjective aspect of life. Here in Upanishad, we find this great synthesis. The objective and the subjective. It was the problem of Kant also. If you go through the Western philosophers, especially the metaphysical philosophers, and Kant, especially Kant, you can find that instead of Brahman, as we cannot explain Brahman, Brahman doesn't have any upadhis or qualities, any attributes. So Kant also have the categorical imperative, which is beyond explanation, which is the source of everything, which is the controller. But he could imagine the categorical imperative, but all the Western philosophers, we find, even the Christianity, Judaism, it is very difficult to connect this highest spiritual absolute with individual. God is disconnected. And when God is disconnected with an individual, either we have to pray or we cannot feel any kind of identity with God when we say God is different from us. And everywhere we find, irrespective of Eastern and Western philosophy, this thing happened. The difference between subjective and objective, the dualities. And this particular aspect has been resolved in Upanishad, we find. It is a unique concept that you are that. What is here, the same thing is there. The macrocosm and microcosm are one. They are connected, operating on the same vibration, and they are built on the same surface. Exactly these things Upanishad did, objective and subjective synthesis for approaching towards truth. The two terms, they are frequently used in Upanishad. One is Adhyatma, it is a Sanskrit term, Adhyatma, and another is Adi Daiva. The Adhyatma, Odhi Atma, that is the Odhi Atma. Atma means self. So it is microcosm. I, micro level. Odhi Atma. And another is Odhi Daiva. Daiva means divine. Odhi Daiva, divine. So that is the macro one. So these micro and macro, they connected the Upanishadic resolution. Nowhere you can find, so this is one, subjective and objective. Everywhere you will find this subjective, objective is different. But only in Upanishad you can find the subjective and objective. That is why it has a great flexibility. You can start your search objectively and you can find the same truth. That if you start subjectively, you can end up with the same truth. Let me give you some example of this. The cosmic space, the space, the space is spoken of as identical with the space in the heart, individual heart. The space is in Sanskrit what they call akasha. So there are different akasha in different level in our heart. Heart doesn't mean spiritual heart. There are different types of heart, the psychological heart, the spiritual heart, the physical heart. So heart is a kind of, the word. It is not the physical heart. So it is a kind of spiritual instrument. By saying heart, we always think that it is our physical heart. And in most of the cases, you see, you meditate on your heart or at the center of your eyebrow. That's the instruction people give. So meditation in your heart, that doesn't mean spiritual heart. Meditation on your heart means it is the spiritual instrument, spiritual heart, anywhere it may be. If you meditate at the center of your eyebrow, that may be the spiritual heart. So the heart, the space in our heart is equal to the space in the cosmos. So see, same thing, how they are connecting. So space in individual means and the space in the cosmos is identical. So microcosm and macrocosm is identical. In Taittiriya Upanishad, it is saying, he who is in the Purusha and he who is in the Sun, he is one. It means not take the whole thing as a sun, as a Purusha. So individual is connected with cosmos. Sun is representing here the cosmos, not the physical sun. It is infinite. So this is another way of understanding Upanishad. In Upanishad you can find, it is called Aham Graha Upasana. There are different types of Upasanas procedure. This is the method in Upanishad. So what Upanishad is saying in this way, this is a typical spiritual practice prescribed in Upanishad. So what they are thinking, take the example of a sun. Sun is used in many Upanishads as a symbol. So sun is all pervading. Sun is life, sun is power, sun is energy. So that is why they took the example of sun. So sun is representing the whole universe, the cosmos. That is an object. And then you are connecting with sun as an object. So see, there are two types of meditation. One is you are reducing down and focusing your mind on a particular thing. That is the Patanjali types of meditation. What is very popular nowadays. So you are concentrating on a particular things. It may be your thought, it may be a dim colored light, it may be some chosen deity, it may be anything else. So you are trying to concentrate your thoughts under your focus on the object of your meditation. Reducing everything. Deductive method. And another is inductive method. So you are connecting yourself with sun, which is infinite. you are broadening yourself and becoming infinite, to encroach, to becoming everywhere. That is another way of meditation. And it is prescribed in Upanishad in many places. So, that is why here it is said in Tattvarya Upanishad, he who is in the Purusha, means the micro level, who is in an individual, he who is in the sun, means infinite, the cosmos, is one. Again, another, Chandogya Upanishad. The Uddalaka is instructing his son, Shvetaketu. He says that how from the Sat, one only without a second, the world sprang forth. After describing in detail the process of the objective manifestation of the self of the universe, Uddalaka turns with the dramatic swiftness and says that the universal self is identical with the self of Shvetaketu, his son. The universal self is identical with you. Again, see, the macrocosm and microcosm are identical. So in this way, the objective and subjective, Upanishad is synthesizing. There is no duality. In Sankhya, Purusha and Prakriti, the world and the self, consciousness, is two different things, completely different things. And when these two different things are connected, means they did not say connection, there is no connection. They are coming closer, juxtaposition. The word used there, the juxtaposition. Coming closer and staying side by side. Why? It was asked on the basis of, I am talking about the Sankhya philosophy now. So then creation, Purusha and Prakriti, when they are coming in juxtaposition, creation starts. So individual human being and the cosmos is nothing but the combination of Prakriti and Purusha, consciousness and Prakriti, material. So this is the creation. And they are not connected, they are in juxtaposition. And when it was asked why they become closer, Vyasa gave his commentary that just like a magnet attracts the iron ore, exactly in the similar way, the Purusha, the consciousness, attracts Prakriti, attracts the world. In this way, they are coming in juxtaposition. But Vedanta says that, Upanishad especially, that Prakriti is the outcome of Purusha. And that is why it is one. According to Sankhya, there are a number of Purushas. Each individual is an Purusha, is a Purusha. But according to Vedanta, all are one. Maya, that is also, that came out from Brahman. It is the aspect of Brahman. Ajnana, impurities, is the aspect of Brahman. Connected with Brahman. It came out from Brahman, as for example, they gave different example of that, There is nothing if we can amputate it. The appendix, the extra growth in human body, our hair, it is a growth, extra growth. If we can remove the hair, nothing is going to happen. Maya is just like that. It is Brahman, but without any impact in Brahman. They said, if Maya is there in Brahman, then why Brahman is not impacted? Brahman should, Maya is there, so Brahman must be diluted. So the example is giving you the venom is in the snake. But snake, there is no impact of the venom on the snake. Exactly. Although the Maya is there, impurities is there in Brahman, it has no impact. Again, this is the typical instance of the synthesis method of Upanishads and of the system of Vedanta which is based thereon. It is through this method that the Advaitins reach the non-dual absolute, which can be characterized neither as objective nor as subjective. It is beyond that. Brahman is to be discriminated from the external world through the objective method, and the subjective method is made use for the analyzing of seeds and seem to encase self for their divesting it of them, just like remove the shape of the cell. So what happens to the individual, there are seeds and different kind of things, and it is covered, the self, Atman, is covered by that. So as husk is, seed can be removed from the husk, exactly in the same way, the Atman, individual self, can be removed from the seeds and all other things, so like that. And from the external world, by analyzing the objective things, we can reach there. So that is why it is said, very important dictum, thou art that. So it is very important dictum. So this is the synthesis of subjective and objective. Do you have any question? So in the Western and the Eastern, see, is one way. They have gone to the subjective already. Objective already. But ultimately the synthesis of subjective and objective we can find in Upanishad. God is always separated from an individual. But how to integrate God with, otherwise, unless you integrate God with yourself, it will end up into duality. Lot of questions. So this integration is very important, according to Vedanta. And from here comes to the conclusion, oneness of existence. There is no difference between sacred and secular. Everything is spiritual drive. Because nothing is two, there is only one. No competition, no hatred, jealousy. There is a beautiful expression in the introduction of Swami Vivekananda's complete works, written by Nivedita, Sister Nivedita, the last paragraph. And there he said, if everything is one, henceforth there will be no difference between secular and sacred. Labor is to pray. Yes, please.
So, Swami, I recall a couple of lectures ago, a couple of weeks ago, you had mentioned that there is no ethics in
Ethical framework.
ethical framework.
No, we cannot resolve
That comes from
the ethical problem from the ethical frame of reference. Means if we stay in the same reference, plane of reference, you cannot solve the ethics. You cannot solve ethics. Take the example. If there are two children is fighting, can they resolve? So their parents will come and they resolve the problem. If you fight with your neighbor, can you resolve it? No. You have to go to the court. The judge will resolve it. So you cannot resolve ethical problem in the same ethical frame of reference. So you have to take the resort of number 3. Okay? But again, ethics depends, varied upon place, time. It is subject to time, space and causation. Here some ethical rule is there. In Afghanistan, another rule is there. In Taliban, another rule is there. So it depends upon time, space and causation. Is there any rule which is the universal ethics? Is it possible? Then we can say, yes, this is the ethical thing. Can we derive any kind of morality which is universal? Okay, thousands of questions are there. Not to kill anybody. Thousands of questions behind that. For your own security, can you kill anybody? So why then Sri Krishna told Arjuna to kill? However, this is a different issue altogether, morality. Okay, if time permits, definitely on one Sunday I shall talk on the morality. What is the morality and how we can derive? Is there any morality which is universal? On this I shall. Yes, please.
Just to go off that question, does that mean ethics? I mean, this is maybe an extended.
Oh, you are talking about ethics?
Yeah, I mean, exists then is what it sounds like in the spiritual framework?
Nothing exists. No.
Then what exists?
That is not. You want to get the answer for the universal morality. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Wait for next lecture. I don't know. Once I talked on this, on ethics in Boston. For a long time it was in the YouTube. Please try to find it in Boston. Yeah.
Just a follow-up, I feel like Puranically / based on the Gita, does it seem like in the text ethics exists? Because in the Gita, I think Krishna says you have to do your dharma regardless, and then later on he does exactly that. So that it says,
Well,
in this way, and then attack this person in this way, and then obviously.
now you are switching over to Bhagavad Gita. So the point is this, dharma. Do you think there is any universal dharma?
From what the book says, it seems like there isn't. I mean, you have to do whatever it takes to fulfill your dharma, so then there's no ethics attached to that.
Dharma varies, Then you have to say, what is your concept of dharma? What you are talking about the dharma? And why you are eliminating the second chapter? Why Sri Krishna explained the second chapter in the second position, in the beginning of the book? Sankhya Yoga. What does it mean by Sankhya Yoga? You have to understand. Sankhya means Atman. Sankhya means the digit, the number. But Sankhya means, it is not Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya means Atman. See, Atma Yoga. Why Sri Krishna explained the Atma Yoga in the second chapter, in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita? It is because on the basis of that, you have to understand. But Arjuna was unable to understand second chapter. That's why Sri Krishna started third chapter Karma Yoga. Started from Karma Yoga to Bhakti Yoga, then the Jnana Yoga. First 6 chapter is considered as Karma Yoga. Second 6 chapter is considered as Bhakti Yoga. And third 6 chapter is considered as Jnana Yoga. That's the point. The same thing happened to Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda also. In the third meeting, Sri Ramakrishna wanted to give the absolute knowledge to Swami Vivekananda in Jadu Mallik's garden house. When he touched Swami Vivekananda's body, and Swami Vivekananda was afraid of it. What you are doing? My father is there, my mother is there, my family is there. What you are doing? Immediately Sri Ramakrishna understood that it was not the right time. Okay, calm down, calm down. And it took 4 years, not 4 years, actually the whole life of Swami Vivekananda to realize who was Sri Ramakrishna. Exactly same thing. Okay. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkham Apnuvat Sarvastarotu Durgani Sarvo Bhadrani Pashyatu Sarva Sadbuddhimapnotu Sarva Sarvatranandatu Durjana Sajjano Bhuyat Sajjana Shantimapnuat Shantamucchete Bandhebhyo Muktaschanyan Vimochayet. May all be happy. May all enjoy good health. May all see happy events. May all be freed from miseries. May all be freed from dangers. May all realize what is good. May all be actuated by noble thoughts. May all rejoice everywhere. May the wicked become virtuous. May the virtuous attain tranquility. May the tranquil be free from bondages. May the freed make others free. May the Supreme Spirit, the presiding deity of all sacred activities, be satisfied, for he being pleased, the whole universe feels satisfied. Peace, peace, peace be unto you all. So next 2 Sundays, the next Sunday and the following Sundays, I think we have a talk on ego, different aspects of ego. So the 2 Sundays we will talk on ego, and then probably from 24th we will have here the Christmas Eve program in the evening at 7 o'clock, and then we will have the winter recess till 14th January Sunday we will resume again, and 7th January in between our winter recess we will have Holy Mother's 171st birth anniversary celebration here at 3 p.m. So these are the announcements. So next 2 Sundays we will discuss on ego, different aspects of ego. Thank you. And as usual, tea and coffee will be served in Saradananda Hall. আমাদের ওয়েবসাইটটা ওর করবো
এইটাই বেদান্তা ওটা আমার পেছনে পেছনে ছিল সেইটা আমার এইটা এবার ডোর লাগিয়েছি সব কটা দেখাচ্ছে এটা হোম
এইটা দেখাচ্ছে তো
ওইটাকে লাইভ বলছে
সকালে তো
ওখানে তাহলে এখনো লাইভ হয়ে গেছে সেটা তো মানে বন্ধ হয়নি
বন্ধ করি রাইট এই যে স্পিরিচুয়াল
না এটা না সিনথেসিস ইন উপনিষদ সেই আচ্ছা সেই এক দেবে কিনা এই দেবে বাচ্চাদের জন্য
সিলেকশন করতে হচ্ছে
সেট আপ হয়ে গেছে আপনার এই কাজটা হয়ে গেলে একবার আপনার কম্পিউটার থেকে ট্রাই করা হবে
এখন তো কম্পিউটার থেকে ট্রাই করা যাবে না কারণ কি এখন তো এখানে অন্য জিনিস সেটিং হয়ে যাচ্ছে
কি করতে চাই আমরা
জাস্ট এই ক্রোম ব্রাউজারটা খুলে
হচ্ছে
এই যে এইটা চলছে এটাই আমাকেও বলছিল সিনথেসিস ইন উপনিষদ এটা কি বলছে ডুপ্লিকেট এই যে সিনথেসিস এটাই চলছে চেঞ্জ হবে এটাই আমাকেও দেখাচ্ছে ওটাই লাইভ হয়েছে এই যে এইটা বলে বন্ধ হয়েছে এটা চলছে
এসে গেছে
হ্যাঁ রাইট কারণ এটাকে
এসে গেছে
কিন্তু এটা কিন্তু সিনথেসিস ইন উপনিষদ চলছে বন্ধ করতে হবে এটাকে এই এন্ড স্ট্রিম হ্যাঁ রাইট কিন্তু লোকে ঢুকবে না হ্যাঁ লোকে ভাববে এটা
এসে গেছে এটা তুমি দেখো না তুমি রিফ্রেশ করো এটা
না না
তুমি রিফ্রেশ করো
এটাকে রিফ্রেশ করো এটাকে আপনাকে বন্ধ করতে হবে এটা দেখুন এখন লাইভ দেখাচ্ছে
এসব টাইম লাগবে
এটা লাইভ আছে এটাকে এই সিমটাকে বন্ধ করতে হবে আপনাকে করে নতুনটা স্টার্ট করে দিতে হবে যেটা আপনি তৈরি করে রেখেছেন হ্যাঁ এটা ঠিক আছে